That faint hiss coming from your bathroom at 2 a.m. is water. Clean, treated, metered water running straight into the sewer and onto your bill. A running toilet wastes somewhere between 200 and 6,000 gallons a day, depending on how bad the leak is. At the low end, that's about $28 a month. At the high end, you're looking at a water bill that could buy a used car by the end of the year. And here's the part that makes my jaw tighten every time I think about it. The fix costs $6 and takes about as long as microwaving leftovers. The part you need is sitting in a bin at every hardware store in the country. Nobody's hiding it. Nobody banned it. The reason you don't know about it is much more ordinary than a conspiracy and much more expensive. A plumber's truck pulling into your driveway costs money before he's touched a single tool. Most plumbing companies have what's called a service call minimum, the flat fee you pay just for the honor of having someone show up. In most American cities, that minimum runs between $90 and $150, and that's before any labor, any parts, any diagnostic time. Add the actual repair on top, and you're looking at a bill somewhere north of $200 for a job that, I promise you, a reasonably coordinated 12-year-old could finish before their frozen pizza comes out of the oven. I'm not exaggerating for effect. I timed it. 4 minutes. And 11 seconds, start to finish, the last time I did one at my sister's house. Now, I want to be fair here. Plumbers aren't villains. A good plumber saves you from catastrophic water damage, keeps your family from drinking something they shouldn't, and knows things about pipes and venting and code that you genuinely need a professional for. This isn't a video trashing the trade, but there's a specific slice of plumbing work, and a running toilet sits right in the middle of it, where the economics of the service call are wildly disproportionate to the difficulty of the fix. You're not paying for expertise. You're paying for the truck, the dispatcher, the insurance, the overhead. And for a 4-minute job, that math is absurd. So the question becomes, why doesn't anyone tell you this? And the answer is, nobody's being paid to. There's no advertising budget behind just do it yourself. There's no industry group running commercials that say your toilet is simpler than your coffee maker. The silence isn't suppression. It's just that quiet, boring truth doesn't sell anything. The rubber disc at the bottom of your toilet tank was patented in its current form in 1957, and the design has barely moved since. Think about that for a second. The engine in your car has been reinvented half a dozen times since then. Your phone didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Television was still mostly black and white. But the flapper valve, that floppy rubber circle that lifts when you flush and drops back down to seal the tank, is essentially identical to the one your grandfather would have installed in 1962. Same shape, same function, same failure mode. And the failure mode is where this whole story lives. Rubber doesn't last forever. It's an organic material, more or less, and it sits submerged in municipal water 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, getting lifted and dropped thousands of times. Chlorine attacks it. Chloramine, which a lot of cities switched to in the 1990s, attacks it faster. Hard water deposits build up on the sealing surface underneath it. And over the course of about 5 years, sometimes 3, sometimes 7, depending on your water, the rubber loses its flex, develops a subtle warp, and stops sealing properly. Water starts trickling past it from the tank into the bowl. The fill valve senses the tank getting lower and kicks onto refill. Then the flapper leaks it out again. That cycle is the hiss you hear at 2 a.m. Your grandparents, the ones who bought their house in 1963, knew how to fix this. It was common knowledge. Hardware stores had entire walls of flappers in every size. You'd drive down on a Saturday, hold your old one up against the display, find the match, pay $1 and change, and be home before lunch. That knowledge didn't disappear because of a corporate plot. It disappeared because we got busy, because dual-income households had less Saturday DIY time, because service economies grew up around every household task, and because just call somebody became the default answer for anything involving a tool. The flapper is still $1 and change. You just forgot you were allowed to buy one. Lift the lid off your toilet tank and you're looking at one of the simplest machines in your entire house. Simpler than a toaster, simpler than a doorbell. There are essentially 3 moving parts, and once you understand what each one does, you'll never be confused by a toilet again. I mean that, for the rest of your life. The first part is the flapper. That's the rubber disc we've been talking about, usually red, or black, sitting at the bottom of the tank, chained to a lever. When you push the handle, the chain pulls the flapper up, water rushes from the tank down into the bowl, and gravity does the rest. The flapper falls back down and seals the drain so the tank can refill. The second part is the fill valve, the tall plastic tower on the left side of the tank with a float attached. When the water level drops after a flush, the float drops with it, which opens the valve, which lets fresh water in. When the water rises back up, the float rises and the valve shuts off. That's it. That's the whole mechanism for refilling. The third part is the overflow tube, which is the open pipe in the middle of the tank. It's a safety feature. If the fill valve ever fails to shut off, the water goes down the overflow tube into the bowl instead of flooding your bathroom. You've probably never thought about it, but it's quietly saved a lot of ceilings. Here's the thing that surprises people. 90% of running toilets, I'm not making that number up, it's roughly what plumbers themselves will tell you, if you ask them honestly, are a flapper problem. Not the fill valve, not the overflow, not some mysterious pipe situation inside your wall. The flapper. That little rubber disc that costs about $4 at the hardware store, $6 if you want a name brand, $8 if you want the fanciest one on the shelf. Replace the flapper and the hissing stops. The toilet stops running. Your water bill drops. The job is done. Shut the water off at the valve behind the toilet, it's the little football-shaped handle near the floor, and turn it clockwise until it stops. Righty-tighty, the old rule still applies. If your valve is stiff or corroded and won't budge, don't force it. That's the one failure mode in this whole project that actually does call a plumber, because a snapped supply line is the kind of flood that ruins a floor. But 9 times out of 10, it turns fine. Once the water's off, flush the toilet once to empty the tank. You'll see the water drain out, and the tank sit mostly empty. There'll be an inch or so of water left at the bottom around the flapper. That's normal, and you can sponge it out. With a rag if you want to work dry. But honestly, it doesn't matter much. Your hands are going to get a little wet. It's clean water. You're fine. Now look at the flapper. It's chained to the flush lever, and the chain usually clips on with a little plastic hook. Unclip the chain. Then look at how the flapper itself attaches to the overflow tube. Most modern flappers have 2 little rubber ears that hook over pegs on either side of the overflow tube. You just slide them off. Some older designs have a rubber ring that slides down around the base of the overflow tube. For those, you pull the ring up and off. Either way, no tools, just fingers. The old flapper comes out in about 10 seconds. Take the old flapper with you to the hardware store. This is the single most important piece of advice I can give you. Don't guess. Don't try to remember what it looked like. Put it in a plastic bag and bring it. At the store, you want aisle signage that says plumbing or toilet repair, and you're looking for a rack of flappers in clear plastic packaging. Hold your old one up against the options and find the match. The 2 common sizes are 2-inch and 3-inch, referring to the flush valve opening, and the package will say clearly which it fits. If your toilet was made after about 2005, it's probably a 3-inch. If it's older, probably 2-inch. But don't guess, match it. Buy the plain rubber kind, not the fancy adjustable kind with dials and settings. Those adjustable ones are solving a problem you don't have, and they fail faster in my experience. $4, maybe $6. Bring it home. Installation is the reverse of removal. Hook the rubber ears over the pegs on the overflow tube, reattach the chain to the flush lever, and make sure the chain has a tiny bit of slack. Not loose and dangling, not pulled tight. About a 1/2 inch of slack when the flapper is sitting closed. Too tight and the flapper won't seal. Too loose and the chain can get stuck under the flapper and cause, you guessed it, a running toilet. Turn the water back on, counterclockwise, slowly. Listen for the tank filling. When it stops filling, flush once to test. Watch the flapper drop and seal. Listen. If you hear silence, real silence, the kind you probably haven't heard in your bathroom for months, you're done. Put the lid back on the tank. Throw the old flapper away. Total elapsed time if you include the drive to the hardware store, maybe 45 minutes. Total cost, under $10. Total money saved on the service call, somewhere around $190. That's a pretty good hourly rate for a job your grandfather considered routine Saturday maintenance. About 1 in 5 running toilets isn't a flapper problem. And if you replace the flapper and the hissing continues, here's exactly where to look next. The second most common culprit is the fill valve. That tall tower on the left side of the tank. If it's old, the internal seal gets worn and the valve won't fully shut off, which means water keeps trickling in even when the tank is full, and that water goes straight down the overflow tube. You'll know it's the fill valve because you can see the water entering the tank continuously, or you can see a thin, steady stream going down into the overflow pipe in the middle. Fill valves cost about $12. They're a little more involved to install. You have to disconnect the water supply line from underneath the tank, but still well within the range of a patient hour on a Saturday with a YouTube tutorial open on your phone. The third possibility, and it's rare, is that the overflow tube itself has a crack, or the flush valve assembly at the bottom of the tank is corroded. That's the one repair where, if you're not comfortable, calling someone is reasonable, because it means draining and removing the whole tank. But I want to be clear about the odds here. Flapper first, fill valve second, everything else is a distant third. Before you do anything else, go put your hand on the side of your toilet tank tonight. If you hear that faint hiss, or you see the water level in the bowl rippling when nobody's flushed in the last 10 minutes, you've got a running toilet. Do the dye test. Drop a few drops of food coloring in the tank, wait 15 minutes without flushing, and check the bowl. If there's color in the bowl, your flapper is leaking. That's your diagnosis, done for free in your own bathroom in under a half hour. You now know more about how your toilet works than most of your neighbors, and you know enough to save yourself $200 the next time one starts running. This isn't some buried secret. It's just plain household knowledge that got quietly edged out by the convenience of paying someone else to do everything. The part is cheap. The tools are your hands. The job is finished before your coffee gets cold. If this kind of straight talk home repair is useful to you, hit subscribe. I'm working on the same breakdown for the dripping faucet and the garbage disposal that hums but won't spin, both of which are also 10-minute fixes that people routinely pay $200 for. Drop a comment below if you try the flapper swap. Tell me your before and after water bill, because I'm genuinely curious how much the audience collectively saves on this one. And if you've got a parent or a friend who's been living with a running toilet for months because they assumed it was complicated, send this their way. There's no reason anyone should be paying a service call for a $4 part.